If you have dirty, messy data, you won't be able to have a successful rollout of tools like this. Now that we're getting to the Gen AI world, it's garbage in, like super powered, wacky garbage out.
Welcome to Between the Briefs, a podcast by Steno. We're here to bring you practical tips, expert insights, and real conversations about the pretrial process, court reporting, and the legal technology shaping the future of litigation. I'm your host, Adrian.
And I'm your host, Joe Stevens. Whether you're an attorney, paralegal, or just curious about how technology is changing the legal industry, we've got something for you. Each episode will break down complex topics, share behind-the-scenes intel, and talk to the people leading innovation in and out of the courtroom. So grab a coffee and let's get into what's happening between the briefs.
Welcome to Between the Briefs, powered by Steno. I'm Adrian.
And I'm Joe Stevens. Today we're diving deep with Evan Shenkman. Evan is the Chief Knowledge and Innovation Officer at Fisher Phillips, a leading law firm of over 600 attorneys, where he has spearheaded numerous innovative initiatives, including the first deployment of Casetext CoCounsel, an AI-powered legal assistant using GPT-4.
Evan's passion for harnessing the power of AI and data analytics to enhance legal practice has earned him accolades such as ILTA's Innovative Leader of the Year and the prestigious Lawdragon 100 AI and Legal Tech Advisors list. He has truly transformed the way law firms approach knowledge management, collaboration, and efficiency. Evan, it's great to have you with us here today. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course. So happy to have you here. So let's just get right to the beginning. Tell us, how did you get involved with law, and what has your experience been thus far?
Sure. So I got involved in law right after college. I went right to law school, from law school right to practicing. I was a labor and employment attorney, practiced labor and employment law, litigation, harassment, discrimination, retaliation, wage and hour, all that stuff. And I practiced for 10 years. Was an associate, and then in my last year, a partner. But at some point, probably 6, 7, 8 years in, I started thinking, is this like a thing I'm going to do for the rest of my life? And realized that there were certain aspects of the practice of law that didn't really gel with me, that I wasn't enjoying it as much as I hoped I would. When you're an idealistic kid going through law school, you think it's going to be great, every aspect of it. But there were just certain things that I found were just adversarial for the sake of just trying to be annoying, right? That's what lawyers do quite often. There was so much stuff that was inefficient. Often the reason cases go away or resolve is not on the merits, right? It's just because one side just tries to make it as time-consuming and inefficient and expensive as possible for the other side. And that just, to me, that's not about justice. That just sort of got under my skin. And after years and years of that, I was good at being a lawyer. I became a partner and all that. So everything is good, but it wasn't right for me, for the rest of my career, at least. And I looked to make a change at that point. That was about 14 years ago.
So what were you looking to change into? What was the thing that was missing from your practice that you were like, okay, I really want to be a little bit more fulfilled doing this thing instead?
Yeah, well, I loved thinking like a lawyer. I loved the projects, the puzzles. I loved helping people find answers. And I loved making clients happy because we gave them good service. And all of that was sort of right in lines with what I really enjoyed. And I wanted to find something where I could focus on that, and making the practice run more smoothly, more efficiently, getting clients answers more quickly. I was always the person that I really just got a rush out of people coming to me saying, Evan, I have this problem. Can you help me solve it? And whether that was a client coming to me, or whether it was an associate coming to me, or whether it was a paralegal coming to me, or whoever, I just like to be the person that could connect people with whatever they needed. So after 10 years of practice, and I realized, I'm at the point in my career where I think I want to do something else where I could be making everything I do is sort of helping and making things good versus fighting with someone else, right? Which some people are great at and some people love it. But for me, it just, it got tiring after 10 years of it. So I went to my firm and I said, I'm at the point of my career where I'd like to make a change. And typically this is when people might go in-house, or they might move into academia or some other area where they could still use the fact that they were a lawyer to get credibility or confidence in some other role. But for me, I said, I know what it takes to be successful at this firm. I know what our clients want. I know what our attorneys want. I know what it takes to be a successful lawyer. Is there some role that we could come up with for me where I could go and use all of that and then help the firm run better and help the firm run more efficiently and help people find answers better, meet clients' needs for innovation, things like that. And then other people can go and actually do the lawyer work. So unbeknownst to me at the time, there were folks at senior leadership in my last firm that were looking to start something called a knowledge management function. And once I figured out what that was and learned about it, because this is now 14 years ago, and most firms didn't have or know about knowledge management, but some firms did, and my firm was sort of exploring it. And they said, you'd be the perfect person to start this function here because you know what our attorneys, how they work, what the workflows are, what our clients want. The firm knows you, they trust you, so there's instant credibility of me in that role, right? So if I'm saying this is the way you should prepare your removal papers, this is the way you should prep for a deposition, this is how you should do discovery, these are the templates that are great to use. They'd say, oh, it was Evan's forms. Oh, good. Okay, those are good. Let's go with those. Versus getting somebody from the outside world and they'll say, who are you? Why are you telling me how to practice? I've practiced forever. We don't trust you. So I came in with instant credibility at my firm. We then hired someone from the outside who had knowledge management credibility. And the two of us together then went and his name is Patrick DiDomenico, and he's still in the industry now as a consultant. But the two of us together then built up a KM function that went from the two of us to 10 to 15 to lots of people doing really cool stuff. And I was there for 7 years in that role. And then now, then I left that firm and I came to Fisher Phillips to head up and to create and head up their knowledge management and innovation and library functions here at the firm. I've been here now for almost 6 years.
Incredible journey. For those who aren't knowledgeable of what a knowledge management system is, can you give a brief description of what that entails and why it is important to a law firm?
Sure. So it's essentially coming up with a systemic way of capturing a firm's information. It could be information in the form of best practice documents and exemplars and samples and forms and things like that. It could be information about who in the firm has handled certain kinds of matters. It could be information like what has our firm done when we've handled these matters? How much time did they take to resolve? What did they resolve for? Who's a subject matter expert on this particular topic? It's really all about just capturing all of that institutional knowledge and organizing it in a way that it can be reused to get the people what they need when they need it. So helping people find whatever information they need when they need it. It's graduated from that in a lot of ways and gotten a lot more sophisticated, but at its heart, it's getting the attorneys what they need at the moment they need it, and it's a whole discipline and function, and they're people that are just focused on that in their day job, and that's what I started doing. It's what I still do today.
How do you decide what is important? I mean, or is it, obviously in sort of the hierarchy of information gathering, there are probably things that are more used or more critical. How do you sort of structure that?
A lot of that comes with collaborating with our attorneys. For me, it's a little bit easier because, again, I practiced law for 10 years, so I knew what would be important, what attorneys need. We're on email distribution lists where we're seeing what attorneys are asking for and what they need, and then laws change and now new things are needed. We see what the clients are asking for frequently based on either direct emails from clients to our attorneys, and then they come to us and say, here's what we need, or we're seeing it in pitch materials and so on. But it really comes down to communicating and collaborating with our attorneys. If we thought we had all the ideas, we'd be wrong about that because the legal landscape is constantly changing. Our attorneys are constantly being asked for things now that were never asked before. When COVID happened, all of a sudden we instantly had a need for forms on temperature testing and mask mandates and who can go where, when, and all that. And those were things that didn't exist in that context, but they did exist with H1N1. So we would go back because we had a good organized system of capturing everything everywhere and say, okay, let's take this stuff and let's now update it for that. And it lets attorneys do things, cutting out a few steps, right? Because they're never starting from scratch. And a lot of what we do is organize what we have, figure out how it can be reused and repurposed in the future, work with our attorneys to curate it, update it, customize it for general use across the firm, And then we organize it in a way where it's easy to find. So then when an attorney needs to start with that for their client, they then only have to charge the client for customizing and applying it to their facts versus starting from scratch. And that gets to the benefit to clients of a really good, robust KM system.
This is amazing. So a big portion of this is accessibility, in my opinion, right? So like you can have all this knowledge sitting in a library. It's going to be kind of hard to get out of your desk, go to this library, and find it. What do you do to make it very accessible and easy for attorneys to just find what it is they're looking for in this system? Are there any tools that you use? What are you currently implementing?
So there are a lot of tools, and there are a lot of technology tools. There are a lot of people organizing that goes on behind the scenes. So when this all started, right, when I got into this 14 or so years ago, it was all about creating wiki pages on a firm intranet, right? It was just a list of things. If you want this, here it is. Click on this hyperlink, and it will go to your document management system, and you can find it. It then got more modern and sophisticated, and then lots of firms started deploying things called enterprise search tools, and that was a very big, very important knowledge management initiative by which a law firm could instantly search from one search box all of the prior work product. So all of those documents that our firm has prepared on various topics, all the research memos and briefs and things like that, you can find it and then filter. So I want to find a position statement on national origin discrimination in the Third Circuit involving a hospital or something. And there we go. We have it. And now we have a good starting point for when we're going to do that same sort of a thing again. We also will use, and we have a tool called BA Insight that we built out there to do that, working with a company. You also can use it to search for subject matter experts. So if you call me up and say, "Hey, I have a problem. I'm from a hospital, and we need to do harassment training, and we need it to be in Spanish. Can you help?" So I'll reach out and I'll look at my tool. I'll run in a search, sex harassment training. And then I will search for people, and it will look to see all of the attorneys at our firm that have provided sex harassment training for a hospital. And then I can filter it for Spanish. And I'll say, okay, great. We have 6 attorneys who have done this in the past year. Here they all are. And I could click in and dig deeper and say, okay, this person did it last week. It was at this hospital and so on. And then I know, okay, Joe is the perfect attorney for you. He's 4 hours away. We're going to ship him over and you're off and running. Just better organizing your firm's information in all sorts. And lawyers and law firms have so much great information, right? Because everything we do gets distilled down, or often gets distilled down into 6-minute increments. And we're doing time entries that talk about what we're doing. Advise client on FMLA issue involving spouses employed by the same employer, 0.6 hours or whatever. And here's a brief they prepared, and here's an article they wrote. All of that is data. Knowledge management captures the data, and then technology tools can surface that data in ways that are so much more sophisticated now than they ever were before. And all of those things sort of work together to help attorneys be better at connecting the right person to the client, better at connecting the right document to the attorney who's going to help the client, and doing that all in a much more sophisticated, pain-free way that lets people not have to struggle to say, who do I turn to? What do I do? How do I start? We have great systems in place to get that running. All of that falls right under knowledge management.
Evan, as a lawyer myself who definitely has had to log time in those increments, does it frustrate you eternally when the logs are not very detailed, or because every attorney is obviously doing their own thing?
Yeah, that's frustration. We have a firm standard way of doing time entries, and I think the time entries now are better than they were because people see the benefit of the enterprise search tool. And there's nothing that can get attorneys. Two things can get attorneys to write really good time entries. The first is the clients are expecting it, and clients start rejecting bills that have not detailed time entries where they can't tell what they did. So that does it, right? That's primary, right? That will get them to do the best time entries right off the bat. The second thing is our enterprise search tool that helps surface subject matter experts. Every attorney wants to be a subject matter expert, right? If I know USERRA better than anyone else, I want the firm to know it because I want people to reach out to me in my firm to ask USERRA questions. If you don't have good time entries that mention USERRA when you were talking about USERRA, you will not have, the algorithm won't raise you to the top and hold you out to be an expert. So that also begets people to be better at their time entries. The client drives it, of course, that's number one, but close number two is everybody wants the firm to know what they're good at, because that's the only way that they'll get people across the firm knowing who to turn to, besides a PTI email to the whole firm, which no one likes to have to send.
Right, right, right.
I can see how valuable this can be for a firm. But what are the first steps to actually getting this implemented?
For any of these types of projects, so for enterprise search, for instance, first you need to have your data somewhere where it can be surfaced by something like this, right? We have our document management system in iManage. We need to make sure that we can get an enterprise search solution that can play with iManage. We also needed to get other information. And if I get too much in the weeds, just let me know. But this is just sort of at a high level. You want to make sure you have other information that could help power this system, right? Time entries are not saved in your DMS. They're saved in a system that captures that, the time entries. That needs to be also surfaced. Your HR information, to some extent, needs to be surfaced because we want to know what office our attorneys are in. We want to know what languages they speak. We want to know what law school they went to. We want to know a whole, where they worked, because we want to be able to search and say, I want to find a subject matter expert who went to, Harvard because the in-house counsel went to Harvard and loves Harvard attorneys, or whatever the case may be. So all of these things need to be organized in a way that makes sense. There are folks that can help with these projects. They're big projects. But at the end of the day, the knowledge management aspect of it is making sure that the data and information the firm has is clean and organized and in a way that can be surfaced. Because if you have dirty, messy data, you won't be able to have a successful rollout of tools like this, right? Garbage in, garbage out. Now that we're getting to the Gen AI world, it's garbage in, like super powered, wacky garbage out. So we really have to make sure that that the data is clean. And I have people on my team who, day in, day out, what they're doing is cleaning and normalizing data to make sure that it's accurate. Because everything we're doing, whether it's the enterprise search or predictive analytics, where we're trying to predict what's likely to happen in cases based upon certain variables in the case, based upon our prior experiences handling cases just like that, with that judge, with that opposing counsel, all of that needs to have clean data. And we need to come up with systems to make sure we're capturing data going forward, essentially in real time, to keep powering these systems and making sure that they're giving us good content and helpful information going forward. And a lot of that takes time and it takes effort. And that's why it takes dedicated knowledge management professionals to make sure they're doing it day in and day out. Because attorneys are busy. It's hard to rely on attorneys to always be thinking about, well, I might have a pitch in 8 months that asks for this stuff, or someone else in the firm might have a pitch. So I want to make sure I do a really good job debriefing a case after it's over into the firm system and letting the suit system know everything that's happening. That doesn't always happen because attorneys are busy. KM people can help make requests for the information, follow up a little bit, do their own digging, working with APIs from other external firm systems to supplement the data as need be, making sure it all matches up. That all is sort of in the wheelhouse of KM professionals.
You talked about your team a second ago, Evan. Are you a kind of a unicorn in this space, given the length of your practice? Is your team staffed with attorneys as well? Or are you sort of the very rare combination of this is your expertise and you also have a lengthy history of being, a practitioner?
Yeah, I don't think I'm a unicorn. I think a lot of folks in the KM world who have been doing this for a while all started as practicing lawyers and then moved from practicing lawyers to a knowledge management counsel or practice support lawyer or something like that. And I would say it's probably now 50-50. Folks who have chief knowledge officer roles or chief innovation officer roles or chief knowledge and innovation officer roles like I have, maybe about half of them practice law at some point. And the reason is it helps with credibility, right? It helps when I'm talking with our attorneys as to why to use these things, when I'm talking with clients as to help explain why our firm is best suited to handle their needs, because we have these great systems in place to help make our attorneys more efficient and to help make the practice of law run more smoothly and to innovate and to meet their expectations for innovation. It helps to have the experience of being a practicing lawyer who can have those conversations. Not necessary, but it helps for certain firms. So that's where we shook down. My team, I have 4 former practicing attorneys on my team, and then I also have 5 or 6 folks who did not practice law but have been in this space for a while. They're more technology and data analytics and SharePoint developers and so on, as well as the library under me, which gets to the number of 16 or so people that are under my team.
I guess to quickly follow up on that then, Evan, if this is something that I totally agree on the credibility front, right? There's nothing like having this sort of depth of experience that allows you to speak about something more credibly, right? Is this a skill that's taught in law school? And if it's not, because I don't remember any classes, granted that was a little bit of a time ago, but like if it's not, should it be? And or are you seeing it be taught more?
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything like this taught in law school. At least it wasn't when I was there. Knowledge management, that is, right? Doing a good job at your time entries, saving things to the DMS in the right document management system in the right way, uh, making sure to start with a template or something beforehand. That's not taught for sure. But what is taught now in some law schools is AI for lawyers. And so the not the knowledge management side, but the legal innovation side is certainly now being starting to be taught by a few law schools. Case Western Reserve was the first law school to make it mandatory for 1Ls. And I was privileged to have been able to guest lecture in that, which was really cool. Super enthusiastic students, super interested and asked fantastic questions, frankly, about how lawyers can be the best lawyers they can be using AI and all that. So AI is now being taught. Knowledge management wasn't.
It's great that AI is actually being taught, I gotta say, because it's already here. You're gonna have to use it. With that being
Without a doubt.
said, have you seen AI interrupt the space of knowledge management, or is it just kind of integrated very well in a vertical?
Yeah, no, I don't think it's an interruption at all. I think it's an accelerator. Um, the way I look at it, KM is sort of the foundation, right? It's the really good data. It's organizing data, it's capturing information and saving it. Where the AI comes, at least with regard to a lot of the AI out there, is the KM is the foundation. The AI and the innovation is the application of that, right? You can't do a fancy AI powered chatbot unless it's trained on really good information under the hood, right? Um, from a retrieval augmented generation standpoint, right? It's there's a chatbot that's an LLM that's knows stuff from the world, but then you train it on your own stuff, right? You can't have doc automation, another CAM project, unless you have really good documents to start with that you then can automate. All of the stuff that we've been doing, all of our data analytics efforts, if you can take AI now and point it at thousands of complaints to be able to immediately pull out the causes of action, the opposing counsel, the judge, this, that. It's so much better for your predictive analytics initiatives that are KM initiatives. And you don't now need a human to spend hundreds and hundreds of hours trying to find this stuff. So you can do it at much higher volume, much higher clip, and get a much more robust data set, which gives you a much greater prediction likelihood. So the innovation portion, right, which is just trying to have our attorneys do better stuff, different stuff, be more efficient, do things in a better, smarter, faster way going forward, figuring out what's around the corner. All of that works so much better with a foundation of good KM. And there's so many people that say, hey, I would love to now create a chat out of all my firm's information. Great. Where's your firm's information? Is it all up to date? Is it all accurate? Or is it all just in a big mush of some stuff is out of date, some stuff is accurate, some stuff is good, some stuff is not? We have 15 versions of the same document, all of which actually are not the right one to look at. They're all still saved there. If you're trying to point AI or Gen AI at that, it'll do a horrible job. KM is the group that helps make sure that the underlying information is up to date, is accurate, is curated, and so on, which is what you want when you're having a lot of these AI initiatives that a lot of firms are seeing.
So what does all of this do to the way, I mean, the efficiency is so incredible. The productivity enhancement is so real. The time saving is obviously so real. Then we talk about this with a lot of our guests on this podcast. What does that do to the way a firm generates revenue? I mean, you can obviously do more, but you're also saving so much time that things you were used to be billing for, you're not anymore. Like, talk me through how that's considered.
Sure. So this is sort of my perspective, and what I'm seeing anecdotally within my firm. Right. There are certain tasks that, of course, you could do them much more efficiently. Right. A deposition. If your client is good with you using Gen AI for summarizing a deposition transcript, and it might have been a 600-page deposition transcript, and it would have taken a human 4 hours to do it or 5 hours to do it. But now with Gen AI, it's done in 8 minutes. Then the human spends 45 minutes to make sure it's good. You're saving a lot of time, right? Uh, we're finding some tasks are done a lot more quickly, but that lets us also do a lot of other tasks in much greater level of focus. The higher value stuff attorneys are spending more time on. if they're writing a brief or doing research, we would always like our attorneys to be able to turn over more stones, right? When I was an associate, one of the things that wouldn't let me sleep at night is, did I miss a case? Did I, should I have? Is there another couple of arguments I could have checked? What if I read a few? What did I miss? Was the biggest fear, right? And what we're seeing is that the Gen AI is helping, and this is responsible Gen AI tools that are appropriate for this, not ChatGPT or Claude or whatever. It's, the CoCounsels of the world and the Vincent AIs of the world and so on. But it helps attorneys turn over more stones in the same amount of time. Not have to read through 50 cases that aren't on point, but be able to read much more deeply and much more intently and with much more focus on the 9 cases that are right on point. If it could sift through stuff, that's tremendous, right? Because then they could spend more time on strategy. Another example, and not in sort of the research space. So we often have a lot of documents to go through, right? We might have a case where we're trying to prove that someone is a supervisor versus, or exempt versus non-exempt or so on. And we might have, enough evidence that we think is probably good enough to prove the point. But we also might have 1,000 emails. It would have taken way too much time for somebody to say, go through all these emails and see if there are any other emails that might be able to help prove that they are a supervisor or not a supervisor, because they assign work and evaluate and discipline and all that stuff, right? But now that we can we could create a bot that could essentially be trained to be a master at going through emails to identify whether those emails are assigning work, directing work, evaluating, disciplining, interviewing, and whatever. And it could do that in 15 minutes. And now we instantly have, 55 or 60 more pieces of evidence that help support our case that we wouldn't have otherwise had, because the client said, it's good enough. Don't spend an extra 5 hours on it, because I'd rather have you spend that time on something else. Now we could still do the something else, right? And we're seeing that we're getting more business from clients because we're doing things more efficiently. And our attorneys were super busy before Gen AI. They're even busier now in the Gen AI world. And I also anticipate that we're going to be seeing more and more cases filed, because it'll be easier for plaintiffs to file cases because they have Gen AI as well. So they can, find their clients more easily. They can file their complaints more easily. They can answer discovery more easily. All the things that prevented them from filing more suits, that's now being, to some extent, pushed aside because of Gen AI, which means we're going to have, yes, we'll be more efficient, but we'll be more efficient handling a lot more. And that I think is my response to the question of, well, what are we going to have left to do, right? This can do it all, and how are we going to make money? Lawyers have more than enough legal work to do, and clients are going to be sending us even more work that they would have held back because it was cost prohibitive to reach out to their counsel.
I'm curious, a large portion of this sounds like it needs a lot of training, because you can build the whole system, but if no one knows how to use it, it's very hard to adopt and then develop the adoption within the firm. What do you do to make sure your associates, your attorneys, your partners are all properly trained on using a knowledge base?
I'll say 2 things. First of all, tons of training on the tools that are attorney facing, right? If it's a tool that we expect for the attorney to need to know where to go and how to use it, how to run prompts and so on, we'll do training. My team does training and I do training. The vendors sometimes will do the training on their tools, and we will repeat and reiterate. We have pop-ups that will pop up reminding people about how to use the tools at certain points. Sort of tool tips or hot tips will come up. So that's sort of just baseline. You have to do training. You have to make sure people are using things appropriately. You have to institute your policy, your Gen AI policy, so people know what to use, what not to use, how to use it, what you can use with for legal work, what you can't use, and so on. So that's sort of point 1, right? Training is super important, probably more so now than it ever was before, because there is a higher tendency of people to rely on technology now than there ever was before, because it's so good at what it does compared to what it could before. You never would expect, nobody would go to Microsoft Word and think it would write a brief for them, right? So if they do or don't know how to do a bulleted list, not a big deal. But when someone's using technology to help with legal research or summarizing or whatever, you have to do training. And that's just, you got to do it. So that's point 1. Point 2 is we're also trying, and this to me is even more exciting, frankly, but we're also looking into sort of ambient Gen AI. And what I'm trying to do, and we're doing this in at least 1 or 2 respects, I'm looking for AI and Gen AI that's sort of all around the attorneys in real time, and it's looking out for them and seeing what they need and then pushing it to the attorney directly without them having to know how to prompt, how to interact with it, what to do, what button to click, what the drop downs are. It's actually going in real time, making our attorneys better attorneys and giving them the information they need before they thought to ask for it. That to me is sort of the next level. I think that's where that's a sneak preview. That's my hot take, right, for the end of this, I think. But making sure that attorneys don't need to know which is the tool that does this and how to use that tool, but it actually just gives it to them because, hey, we now know that your client was sued. Um, we know that because we have a system in place that is scouring case filings and scouring agency information and filings against our clients and our prospects. And a couple times a day, it will go and use AI to look at all of the companies that were sued, figure out if they're our client or our prospect. If it does, it will automatically send an email to the attorneys at our firm that have the relationship with that client or prospect. And in that email, it will also have links to run data analytics on the judge, information about the industry. Click here to pull the complaint. Here are the other attorneys in the firm that have had matters with this client, so you can coordinate before you reach out to the client. And here's a Gen AI-powered initial case strategy report that tells you the statute of limitations in play, the causes of action, the potential damages, information about the judge, and all of this other stuff, and then some more. And it does all of that automatically in the background without the attorney saying, "Hey, was my client sued today?" It does all that just because that's the way we set it up, right? And that to me is the real where place that Gen AI is going in legal, right? Because there are now tools for lawyers that can do a lot of different things in amazing Gen AI ways, right? It can look at a complaint and generate a proposed answer for you. It can look at discovery and generate a proposed answer. It can come up with a list of witnesses that we might want to interview for this case, right? There's got to be, and there soon will be, a whole system that does that automatically. So when it knows that a complaint was filed, we're going like 9 or 10 steps now down the road already, starting off a chain of events that will then give the attorneys a package to say, here's a great starting point for various things that you might want to use when you're now starting this process, embarking on this process to figure out how can I best help my client. And that to me is a turbocharged way of getting people what they need when they need it before they even thought to ask.
That's just incredible. And I know that we're going to probably come back to the hot take here in a second, but it what caught me about your answer there is one, obviously how innovative that is. I mean, obviously that's part of your job title too, so it's not surprising. But before that, you mentioned your just internal is sort of AI policy, and part of that policy is what not to like how you can and cannot use AI. Based on what you just said, I'm sitting here trying to figure out. I mean, aside from the obvious things like don't use ChatGPT to put research case law or don't put confidential information into OpenAI, things like that. What what are the restrictions? Like, what are things that you should are advising people not to do?
The two that you mentioned are big ones. For non-public information, where it can and can't go, when you need or don't need, when you need to talk to the client and get permission, that humans must double check and triple check, confirm accuracy of every single thing that comes out of a Gen AI solution. Which are the tools that have been vetted by our firm for use? Which ones have been expressly rejected for use by our firm? How you go about it, where you find the tools, where you find the list, all of that information goes in there. And I have to say, we've updated that Gen AI policy probably 4 or 5 times over the past 2 years. And we'll probably update it again a couple times over the next year because these things are ever changing. And the guidance, the guidance from the ABA, the guidance from state courts, the guidance from particular judges, and the policy also mentions how to comply with all of those and where you have to check and collaborating and so on. Lots of things have to go into the policy. And that's just sort of the place where we are. I think at some point in the future, whether it's a year, 2 years, or 3 years, it'll be easier because I think there will be a uniform standard of appropriateness and care that Gen AI vendors will be able to get and have that badge. And then the courts will feel comfortable automatically. and the clients will feel comfortable automatically, and the attorneys will feel comfortable automatically. We're not there yet, just because this is also new and people are interpreting things in different ways. So it's going to get easier, but for now, it's a little bit messy, and you have to have a policy that protects your firm and your clients, and you're updating it, and you're handing it out, and get it docu-signed and all of that.
Hearing you speak, Evan, I can tell that you're very analytical, and you have like a very process orientated mind, right? We have a new campaign that we're running that we're calling kind of the attorney work styles. So I would love to just pitch you some 4 different categories, and you tell me which one you best fit into.
Okay.
All right. All right. So the first one is the research commander. You're someone that dives into precedent and case law right when your case begins. The strategic architect, someone who maps out all the moving pieces before the case begins. The courtroom dynamos, the one who is looking for the end goal and that trial strategy leading up to it. Or the narrative weaver, where you try to understand the human story element to it before you start the case. Which one of those 4 do you think you are?
I know I have some components of all 4. I would probably say I probably would still be practicing law if I weren't closest to the narrative storyteller, in that I think I personalized so many of the cases that I handled, and I had so much emotional investment in those cases. And I think that was part of the reason why it got exhausting to have so much emotional investment, and because sometimes the cases don't work out the way they should, and no fault of your own or no fault of the clients, but because of all the other things. So I think that's probably where I would lie, just because that impacted the trajectory of my career. But I think 1, 2, and 3 also, there's a lot of traits in there that resonate with me.
Love that.
Yeah. As I think about that all the time too. I work on the criminal side and have been in rural Texas on public defense. Like you cannot help but get invested in the stories, and so many of the things that just affect it are so well beyond your control. Or anyway, I mean, it's tough. The residual effects of that are very real. But this leads into my next question. You mentioned also a while ago the things that used to keep you up at night as a lawyer and as a practitioner. Did I miss something? Did I not? Should I make another argument? What are the things that keep you up at night right now, as in your current role?
I think the place we are today in terms of technology uh, is a harrowing time, right? It's the most exhilarating and exhausting and nerve-wracking time to be in legal innovation, just because everything is moving so quickly. It is, this technology is the most powerful technology we've ever seen, Gen AI technology. It's the most black boxy technology we've ever seen, right? No one still knows exactly how it works, but we know it's super powerful, and we're trying to navigate that at the same time, right? How do we implement and incorporate this great stuff that's moving so quickly? It's ever changing. It is the most approachable technology we've ever seen, meaning all of our attorneys want to use it. They want to try it. They want to get their hands on it. Their clients are excited about us using it, and so on. And this whole, the mishmash of those 3 or 4 traits means it's a challenge to keep up with everything and do it without dropping one of those balls, right? And that, to me, that's what keeps me up at night. Am I moving too quickly? Am I moving too slowly? Because I feel like I'm simultaneously moving too quickly and too slowly with all of this. Are we being too aggressive, or are we being too conservative? I feel like at the same time I'm both, just because this is every single day it's changing. There's a new article and a new study and a new company that comes out, and a new launch and a new acquisition in the tech space that's changing things, and so on. And something happens with one of the big LLM providers, and that changes things again. That's what keeps me up at night now. But I'd much rather be kept up at night with this sort of thing than with justice and the balance in a case I was handling.
Completely understandable. This leads us perfectly into our next question, which is we always ask at the end of the show, what is your hottest take on the industry right now?
Yeah, I think it's ambient AI or ambient agentic AI. Any tools that can essentially listen in and monitor what's going on, and then give attorneys, whispering in an attorney's ear to say, hey, here's some insights that what that person just said, what Joe just said in the deposition, it's wrong, and here's why, right? That's the sort of thing where we used to have binders and binders with Post-it notes and Post-it notes to try to know every single fact, where it all is, what I could find it so I could pull it out at a moment's notice, right? Ambient AI right now that's able to say, I know what Evan probably needs because I just heard Adrian say something. Evan needs to know this, and here it is, Evan, right? Or I'm on a client conversation, and it's helping me in real time say, it sounds like Joe has an issue involving ADA Title III. Why don't you ask Joe these couple of follow-up questions if you weren't planning on doing that? Oh, wow, that makes me smarter in real time, right? And I didn't need to prompt, I didn't need to ask, I didn't need to go into a tool, but it's just these are platforms that are able to help in real time. That's where I think a lot of this is going. And when you add agentic flows into this, where it can actually make judgment calls and then a judgment call and a judgment call on top of that, then we're getting not only next level, but next level. And that, I think, is the next big thing. I think the whole concern about, who are the prompt engineers? How do we train them? What does it take to be a good prompt engineer? In the future, we're not going to need prompt engineers because the systems will start to know what we need without us having to prompt them. And I'm already seeing that. We're already deploying some of that, but it's at the infancy compared to what we're going to see in 2, 3, 4 years.
That is a wild thought. It makes complete sense when you think about how fast everything is moving. But I got to tell you, thank you for all of your insights, Evan. This has been a fantastic conversation. And thank you to our audience for tuning into Between the Briefs. Evan Shenkman has truly given us a masterclass on legal innovation, AI, and knowledge management and how it's changing the industry.
Yeah, he absolutely did. That was amazing. Adam, thank you. Evan, thank you so much. For those listening, make sure to subscribe and catch our upcoming episodes packed with cutting-edge legal insights, and we'll see you next time.
Up next on Between the Briefs.
Even when there is federal legalization, if that ever comes, I think we're still going to see a lot of barriers for quite some time. I think the hottest take for paralegals is to
stay tuned for the full interview coming to you soon.
Between the Briefs is brought to you by Steno. To find out more about Steno and how we combine exceptional court reporting and litigation support services to deliver a superior litigation experience, visit steno.com. That's STENO.com. And then make sure to search for Between the Briefs in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else you get your podcasts. And click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at Steno, thanks for listening.